updates here from Pop. Turn it is speaking to Kingston Rumi Southwick about Presumed Innocent on Apple TV Plus. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys for having me, man.
No, it's exciting. You know, it's such a crazy feeling, right? Like you audition, you book this show, you film it, it wraps, and now, you know,
it doesn't feel real
to see it.
You're working, and you're like, oh, you know, they'll come out, maybe, whatever. And then now, you know, you go to the premiere and you see people and you watch, like I watched it for the first time in like a movie theater with people. Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's like, so crazy.
It's a different ballgame, but it's awesome. It's like, it's so cool.
I'm interested to kind of know about the audition process specifically and how much you kind of knew what you were auditioning for, because I feel like it's 50-50, right? Like sometimes they tell you a lot of things, sometimes you know a good amount. Like, what did you know? Did you audition for the character you got? Tell me what you can about the audition process.
Yeah, I love that. I love answering questions like that. But yeah, it's I got the audition just like anybody else does. You get like sides, you get probably like 5 or 6 pages. I remember this audition, there was like probably 9 pages, and I got it one day and I had to do it the next day. So I like loved the script, like of those sides that they gave me. I read it all, I memorized it, and the next day I did the audition, self-tape and everything, and then sent it in, and 4 days later Apple approved me, and then I think 5 days later I booked it.
And the rest was history.
It was like, oh my God, it was so fast. But it was, you know, hopefully it was like meant to be, you know.
And I kind of want to know specifically because, you know, you kind of just said it perfectly, right? Like the process before actually like going and like filming the show and everything, like so much kind of happens before you go to camera. So from a storytelling acting perspective, you can look at it as like 2 journeys, right? Before filming something and after filming something. Or do you see it as one big journey with multiple steps? I'm curious about that from a storytelling acting perspective.
No, that's great. Yes, it's because when you're on set, and especially if you've never done it before, it's like it's life-changing. You know what I mean? You book this, they're like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be working with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ruth Negga and Dave, like all these people, and you're like, what the hell? Like you can't comprehend it, you know? And so I feel like doing it, you know, I had to change schools, I had to like stop my life, and just it was a very big change. And so thinking back at it now, that life before is totally a different journey than like being on set and stuff.
Yeah.
Having to kind of use those things together, you know, like being an actor and doing my scenes and memorizing my lines, and then being like a normal person, like going out and hanging out with friends and stuff, like you need it and stuff. And so that's a great question, because it's 2 different lives that you kind of have to juggle. But I felt really able to do that on set because of everyone's like support and their confidence, and I felt like it's a great first job to kind of see and be like, oh, this is how it works. I'm working with very strong, so super talented people that it made me feel safe while shooting. It made me feel like open and yeah, it was awesome.
No, absolutely. It's interesting when you have things with like, you know, you have series in the genre of like crime and the whodunit and all of that. The audience member in a day, Kingston, where there's so many different audience members. There's like the passive audience member who just puts on like, you know, SpongeBob or like Family Guy in the background while they come home from a long day at work, right? They're not really paying attention. They're on their phone. Then you have something like this, Presumed Innocent, where it's like, put your phone away, pay attention, or you're going to miss something. I'm wondering if you are ever conscious of the audience member like watching the show as like an active detective while you're making it. Do you ever think about those things at all with a show like this?
Yeah. What was amazing, I love about our directors, Greg Ayantes and Sawitsky, they were always, and even Jake too, like everybody, we were always like, okay, how is the audience going to take this? And how is the audience going to perceive this scene or feel in these, you know, in these moments? And that now watching it, like actually watching it is totally different than what I envisioned it, because we made it for you guys. Yeah. And what I love about the show, which you've heard in other interviews and stuff, is that we had no idea what the ending was. Like we had no idea.
That's the best too. I love that.
And it's awesome because like it was a mystery to us, and it's a mystery to you guys, you know.
Yeah.
So it totally, even watching it, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening? You know, what's gonna happen next? I'm like, oh, I know what happened next. But that's what I love about the show, and yeah, it's definitely like the audience is it has their own I guess they perceive each scene differently.
Yes.
You know? And
Yeah,
what I
absolutely.
love about that's what I love about acting too, is that you can see certain things and you can see, like I love about movies too, but you can see scenes and one person will take it completely different than the other person. So
Yeah.
like you're gonna watch these scenes and be like, oh my gosh, he could have done it or she could have done it.
But
And then
also,
people, yeah, and the other
that
people will be
too.
like, oh, he couldn't have done that or whatever. And that's what's
no, because what you're saying just makes me excited because it's weekly drops, right? In a world where like there's binging, like binge culture, like,
exactly.
it's weekly drops. So those dinner table conversations, right? Every week that change, that's the best.
That's
Right?
what it is. And you get to like sit and embellish and be like, oh my gosh, well, if he did this, if she did that, this could happen, and he has this, and I'm so you guys are gonna love the show. I mean,
Absolutely. No, I can't
I
wait.
watched it all the way. I watched it all the way through, and I was like, next episode. Like I probably watched it within like a day, like probably 2 days.
I know,
And
it's so great. And it's coming out pretty soon. Like people, the episodes are going to start to roll out pretty soon, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I want to know that the script to screen journey interests me.
Ooh, yes.
So like specifically for your character, for your stuff, what's
Yes.
that like kind of reading it and then actually going to film it and seeing it come to life on screen, so to speak, Kingston?
Yeah, I love these questions. I love David E. Kelly so much. He is just the most, he's very clever and he's very meticulous about his writing. You know, so we would have these big talking scenes, and he was like, let's do it like this and let's figure it out like that. And it was very, very calm and was very smart. And I love that about his writing, especially Jake Gyllenhaal and Ruth Negga too, like the people who I worked with. They were very smart in reading that and expressing that. And so having those things like with our directors, they were also very open to being like, okay, let's improv a little bit on this scene. Let's have a non-scripted scene. Let's like kind of, we want to get here and you have to say certain things. How are we going to do that? And so having the script and then going and actually doing it was so different, because especially I feel like what every actor does is they'll read a script and they'll be like, oh, it's going to go like this, and I'm going to have to say it loud here, whatever it is. And then you get a set and it's completely different.
Yeah.
And I loved that because it was different every time. And we were able to kind of express exactly what we needed and wanted. And we did it with ease because the writing was so good, and especially when you improv too, and when you're doing those things off of people like Jake and people like Ruth and stuff, you're like, oh my
100%.
God, like this is easy because they're so good at it. And so it's fun. It's like really fun to bounce off of them. And I feel like the writing, the like scripts, everything was so well planned out and kind of like so well written and so meticulously handcrafted, especially by David, especially by JJ and everybody. So yeah,
absolutely. For your stuff specifically, Kingston, I'm just curious, because if you ask anyone else in your cast, because you all have different scenes and different things, right, and different roles, so to speak, like what was the overall pace of filming your stuff? Like, did you have some days that were like really long? Did you have some days were a little shorter? Were they all kind of the same like length and pace? Like, what was that like for your stuff specifically?
Yeah, that's awesome. So my stuff, I had days where I had weeks even where I had to work like every single day that week for 10 hours, or whatever it is. And that is totally taxing on anybody, but it was really cool because when I would do scenes and stuff, I would always really like read it a million times and just know everything that I need to know. And going on to set and stuff and working with like I remember days that I worked with Jake and I had these like really long monologues and stuff. Would always plan out and be like, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna put this scene together and stuff? And it was really interesting because some days I can go in, like I'll go in, do one scene, and then I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
or other days where I'd work all week, you know what I mean? And so it was really like on and off. And that's all actors are like, it's all going to be like that, where some days you'll work super long, some days you're super short. But what was fun that I did is no matter what day that I came on, I would stay like as long as I possibly could, because I loved watching, like, even from behind the cameras and stuff. And so even days where I would do one scene or maybe even two, I'd stay and I'd watch, like, my person who plays my sister Chase Infinity, like I'd watch her do her scenes and watch everybody, and it was fun to like be on set, you know.
Absolutely. No, it's crazy. And the last question too. I mean, you look at like the crime and like true crime and that genre. You look at horror movies, like these are genres that have always been around, but I feel like just kind of popularity wise and content wise, it's just been elevated, right? And there's like a surge. So what is that like working in a genre like crime and everything at a time where like there is like a real popularity and interest around it, so to speak?
Well, yeah, exactly. So what I also loved about David E. Kelly is that he wanted to make it very realistic.
Yes.
And so I remember, and even our wonderful makeup artist Donal, he would, for Renata and how her dead makeup was and how these certain crime scenes, he had books on how to do. So everything was like we wanted to make it very real and very easy for people to connect to, be like, oh, I see, like I've seen that, or I'm in that line of work and I understand that. And so I loved working in genres like this, because especially with people who I worked with, because they're very good at finding the realism in it and stuff. And yeah, so it was fun to work on a set that everything felt so real and so like easy planned out. I remember walking into the courtroom like when nobody was there, and I was kind of just going around with one of my friends, and we looked at some of the pages and some of the like files that were there, and there was like actual files in there, and actually like just little things like that. It was like, who's gonna see that? But it doesn't matter, because it's like so real, you know.
Absolutely, and I can't wait. Episodes are going to be rolling out on Apple TV Plus for Presumed Innocent. Kingston, so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome, like so awesome.
No, I really appreciate you saying that. Your Instagram account is the best way where people keep up to date with everything, right?
Yeah, yes.
Is it just your name?
It's just Kingston Rumi Southwick.
Awesome. Well, this has been PopTurnitive. YouTube.com/PopTurnitive. Previous episodes, PopTurnitive.com has other content as well. Kingston Rumi Southwick stars in Presumed Innocent on Apple TV Plus. Until next time, it's Kingston and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to PopTurnitive. Make sure to check out our past episodes of PopTurnitive on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.